I drove by a piano store. I said, man, I like music. I've always liked music. And I went in and, ended up talking to the owner of the store, and the guy loved me. He was like, I think you'd really be great at this. But you're going to have to go to the North Carolina State Fair and sell pianos. I said, when? He goes, tomorrow. For how long? 12 days.
This is Andrew Vance, and you're listening to Choose the Hard Way, where the world's top performers share lessons learned at the limits of human experience. High performance is for everyone. You are what you overcome. Choose the hard way. Please take a moment to leave us an iTunes review. Even one word really helps, and subscribe and give the show a 5-star rating on Spotify or iTunes. I love bringing you the stories of my guests, and I really appreciate you taking a second to support the show, which helps more people to find it. Go to choosethehardway.com to sign up for the newsletter, and if you have feedback or would like to suggest a guest, you can DM at HardwayPod on Instagram or send an email to choosethehardway@gmail.com. You can find those links in the show notes. My guest today is Matt DeCoursey. He's a serial entrepreneur, a podcaster, an author, and a Forbes Next 1000 recipient. He's the CEO and founder at Full Scale and the Startup Hustle podcast, and the author of 3 books, including $1 Million Bedroom, Balance Me, and The Realist Guide to a Successful Music Career, which he co-wrote with Umphrey's McGee member Joel Cummins. Full Scale enables companies to quickly and affordably build their development teams. You can find them at fullscale.io. Startup Hustle tells the real stories of startups and entrepreneurs, and you can find it at startuphustle.xyz and everywhere you listen to podcasts. To learn more about Matt, his books, and his other businesses, go to mattdec.com. That's mattdec.com. As always, those links are in the show notes. Matt and I went to high school together in Kansas City, Missouri, and I hadn't seen him in a few decades before I ran into him at an event while I was back home in Kansas City, where the heart of rock and roll is still beating. The story of Matt's rise from piano sales to tech kingpin blew me away, and when I heard it, I knew I had to have him on the show and share it with you.
I'm going to steal the answer of who am I and what I do from one of my mentors who asked on my own podcast, said, I'm just a guy looking for something to do. There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I've done a lot of different things in life. I've written books. I've worked for other people. I've worked for myself. I've started a bunch of different companies, some of which have done well. And really, in the end, I am just a guy looking for something to do. I don't do very well at sitting still. Nothing that I've ever done well, I planned on doing well when I got started. It's like literally, I'm the example of what happens when you start an accidental business.
Right.
And it's almost weird because as you gain more success or experience as an entrepreneur, you begin to care less about what you're actually doing before you start it, and instead develop a sense of looking around and listening for, I say listen for the echoes. You hear enough people asking for something or a solution or mentioning the same problem, that's an echo. And how do you respond to those echoes? So for me now, I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Full Scale. You can find us at fullscale.io. And we solve the problem of the talent shortage that exists in the tech world. And there's just not enough programmers and people here to write code and do a lot of that stuff. So I used my experience as building my own software companies and doing a lot of different stuff, and doing so in the Philippines to work with my business partner, Matt Watson, to create a turnkey system that makes it really easy for North American software companies to build teams of experts in our office in the Philippines. So like, what does that mean, right? Like, there's so much that goes into finding people that don't work at your office. Is there a level of accountability? Is there talent? Do they care? There's just so many different things that go into it. And, that's what we do now, but that was an accidental business as well. Matt and I first became business partners, in February of, what was that? Would have been 2017. Is that right? Yeah. It shows you how little we're paying attention to those details. But Matt and I had become friends because I interviewed him for my book, $1 Million Bedroom.
What happened in the $1 Million Bedroom?
Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff that the $1 Million Bedroom. And so we're going to go all the way back, like
we might as well, like
origin story style.
I think that we need to go back to pianos. I think that's
sure.
That's clutch.
Yeah, sure. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, first off, I know you because we went to high school together.
We did.
When you're going to be on Andrew's podcast, he sends you an email and says, be ready to talk about all the things you didn't do well. So maybe we should start there. I was never a good student, ever. Like, I never did well in school.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's not because school looks at you as like an all around did well. So I'd have like an A or a D, sometimes an F, but I'd always get good grades in the things I cared about. And I didn't care about much that was going on in school. I was disruptive, hyperactive, didn't always follow the rules, and was often told that was going to come caving down on me. It probably did on some level, but it was more so because I believed that everything everyone else told me was the way it is on some level. I've been to 5 colleges and now I'm a junior. Also, they tell you, if you don't get a degree, you don't do this, you don't do that. And then I just realized at, some point that none of that really mattered. It was going to definitely be a little longer road for me if I wanted to be successful. But you say go back to pianos. I was in my mid-20s and back to accidental stuff. I had just moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, and I was getting back together with my ex-girlfriend, who's now my ex-wife. There's a recurring theme there. And I just moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, went out looking for a job, and I got lost. I drove by a piano store. I said, man, I like music. I've always liked music. And I went in and, ended up talking to the owner of the store, and the guy loved me. He was like, I think you'd really be great at this. But you're going to have to go to the North Carolina State Fair and sell pianos. I said, when? He goes, tomorrow. For how long? 12 days. I was like, dude, that sounds terrible. So I had to go tell I just literally was in town for like a day and a half, and I'm going back and saying, hey, I got a job, but I'm going to have to leave for 2 weeks. But, long story short, that led to me working in the music industry for 8 years.
You got to take us inside the state fair. That's not fair. Just like lay that out there. So when I think of state fairs, I'm thinking deep fried Oreos, Twinkie on a stick, hog wrestling, and piano sales. Like, was that
stuff was all still definitely all right there.
Were there a lot of people walking in who were high intent buyers looking for a piano?
No.
Okay. So what was the game?
So the game was exposure, and you're into marketing. The more eyes, the better. That was without a doubt a volume game because no one goes to the state fair and says, all right, kids, we're going to get a fried Twinkie and we're going to buy a $70,000 grand piano.
Right.
But if you get your product in front of enough people, you will find enough people that care. So a lot of that was lead generation. People would say, oh, well, I'm not really interested in buying something today, but you could follow up with them. And, the piano industry is something that if we want to talk about failure, was huge for a long time. Everybody had a piano. And over the last 10 years, it's died to the point that, you wonder if there's even going to be any interest in that going forward. But I ended up working at a couple different places. The state fair was interesting. I had no clue what I was doing. It was my first job in sales, selling anything that was a product and I didn't know anything about the product. So I was kind of winging it. But one thing I was good at was talking to people, just saying, hey, striking up the conversation and immediately knowing when I was out of my depth and when it was a good idea to say, hey, this person might be interested. Let me go find someone that knows what they're talking about, which I still do a lot of in this day and age.
And when you were capturing leads at the state fair, was this for direct mail or we're talking AOL accounts? Like what was going down?
Dude, okay. This was so long ago. That's when dial-up internet was just like really a thing. What year would this have been? This would have been like 2000.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. But no, it was typically someone's phone number. It's, hey, if you want to come see this demo, do you mind filling out this piece of paper? The piano business is funny. It was so full of shit. Like it was like used car sales, but worse. And yeah, I mean it. Like some of these guys, and here's the thing is, pianos are expensive and the margin was high. It was actually, I went back from the state fair and they had offered me a job, like a real job at their store in Wilmington. And I asked the guy, I said, well, how much money do you think I can make? He said, well, if you keep doing what I've seen you doing, you'll probably make $75,000. I was 27, 28 years old at that point. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. So I was excited, but it was easily the most boring job. In a piano store, if 3 customers come in a day, that you leave and you're like, dude, crazy day. We were slammed. So yeah, spent a lot of time sitting around. I didn't last too long in that mode of sales, but I ended up working for another company after that, which 2 years into the industry, I was managing 16 different stores or a section within. So, and that was actually, at that point in my life, I went from, I've always tried to suck up knowledge, and I learned pretty quickly that if you want to do something well, find someone else that's already doing it well.
Right. And
just ask them. And sometimes they care, and more often than not, I was probably 28 years old. It's probably 15, 16 years ago that I very quickly learned that people like to talk about themselves. So if you ask, they usually will. And if they think that if they see a little bit of you in them, or the other way around, if they see a little bit of themselves in you, they get even more excited about it because there's usually someone that took interest in them. It's like a weird knowledge transfer thing. It's like tribal almost, it's like the village elder passing the story and the knowledge down and stuff like that. So did all right. Now that whole time,
I want to hit pause on that.
Yeah, sure.
I was having a conversation with somebody who reached out to me the other day, and I was very open and willing to spend time talking to this person about where they were going with their career. And he had some questions about wanting to approach some people who he wanted to talk to. And my advice to him was, hey, always bring something useful to the person that you're talking to and be of use to them. Don't just suck knowledge out of them, because it's not always likely they're going to want to spend time with you to do that. What would you recommend to people who are going out and they're trying to find those people, trying to find those mentors, trying to connect with them? What have you found to be useful in your career?
Don't be an asshole. Have you heard that term before?
Yeah.
An asshole is a real thing. And it's like, are we allowed to say that?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Don't be an asshole, but you'll get it. So an asshole is someone that just asks you said bring something of value. I'm going to twist that a little bit. I have found that I don't necessarily have to bring something of value, but I better make it convenient for that person. Not like, will you come meet me at Starbucks? Because I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain about starting a .com. And when I hear that, I'm thinking, yeah, because my time's worth $3 an hour. Now, you have a 0% chance of getting my attention with that approach. If you were to offer to come by my office or anything like that, make it convenient. Yeah, I'll probably say sure. And sometimes those go well and sometimes they don't. And, it is what it is. But I think you have to make it convenient. You have to say, I'll come to whatever works best for you at whatever time works best for you. And, that could be different for every person. Some people don't want to meet you during business hours because they're focused on doing other things. Some people want you to, I don't know, man. I've had people say, sure, come on. This is where I live. Come on over. And you're like, shit, that's like an hour away. Okay, well, that's the price. That's the price. Is it worth it? And then it's up to you to decide.
So did you learn how to play piano during this period of time?
Very poorly.
Okay. Would you have to get on and demo the gear, or would you let the
Sometimes.
What was your go-to?
I didn't really have a go-to. Did I have like a song that I always rocked? Not really.
No.
It's, a lot of that. If you're coming to shop for a piano, you usually know how to play one, or you're looking for one for your kids. But, with that, there's usually someone in the store that plays well.
You're the expert.
Well, somewhat, but it's okay to it's interesting because a lot of people that, I learned that you don't necessarily have to be a practitioner of the art. And that's the same way with what I do now. I sell tech services. I don't write code, but I knew a lot about music. I had a history with music. I play guitar way better than I play piano, and I don't really even say I play guitar. But I was able to have a reasonable discussion with a parent and say, look, you need to have an instrument that your kids will find interesting. And because parents would make the mistake, they'd want to buy this like $99 keyboard. And they said, well, that's going to end up under the bed. It's going to be out of the way. They're going to lose interest in it. If you had to set it up every time you had to play it, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel good. There's no self-esteem that you build while playing it. Like a good musical instrument calls you. You hear it. Like your guitar's like, play me. And you know, but that is true. Do you play any instruments?
I do. I play guitar.
Do you know the feeling?
I've been called by my guitar.
Yeah, I know.
It's been calling me for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does that mean you're any good at it?
I plateaued, I think, about 26 years ago.
In year 4.
My wife is like, "Can you learn some new songs?"
It's
like these are the songs I know.
My wife. Yeah, my wife was tired of my song catalog before we even met. So yeah. But with that, you get it, and that kind of keeps it interesting. But if it's dumpy, it doesn't sound good, it doesn't feel good, then why? I mean, you're kind of like, eh. So yeah, you know, I ended up, so to kind of fast forward that. And for those of you that are still listening, yes, this story will get a hell of a lot better. But,
I think it's pretty great already.
Well, that, you know, the music industry was a lot of fun. I ended up working for Roland. They're out in California. That's most people are familiar with Roland, but not enough. Roland's actually the world's largest maker of electronic musical instruments. And like they invented MIDI. Like when you played Nintendo, like Super Mario Brothers, those sounds that you heard were all licensed from Roland. So they had like this very interesting background. But I spent 2 years traveling over 13 states and hated it. Hated the travel. And I quit. And I was in my early 30s at that point. And at this point, I've now quit a couple jobs because I quit a couple previous jobs before that people work a long time to get. And people are starting to tell me I'm nuts. They're like, you can't keep quitting these jobs. I'm like, yeah, but they're like, yeah, but you make really good money. But if you're not happy, who cares? I mean, you can have all the money in the world. If you're miserable, it doesn't mean shit.
How many Fish shows had you been to at that point?
Probably 40.
40. Okay. Yeah, I'm interested in that because like going back to like both high school, moving on to pianos, and to me, this is all really directly tied to what you shared about yourself and what you're doing now. But a lot of people look at experiences like you described as like, hey, it's like you're like in high school. Hey, Matt, like you're not focused on being 100% academically driven. You know, you were enjoying other interests probably later. You were enjoying going to Fish shows, hanging out. And when I was reading $1 Million Bedroom, one of the things that struck me is just hanging out with people and bullshitting with people. As you said, like you start to like pick up echoes because that's part of where like the ticket business idea came from, right?
The ticket business was a kind of an accident, you know, and that's a good segue into that because I quit my job at Roland. Yeah. And I went back to school, which, you know, I was in Indianapolis at the time, and I'm from Kansas City. Now, Indiana Indiana University has a business school that at the time was a top 10 business school. And there's a guy named Ed Kelly who owned Steak and Shake and was the original importer of Smirnoff vodka, got super rich, and he gave a ton of money to the school. And it enabled them to get the kind of teachers and stuff that they wanted. And I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wasn't expecting to even get accepted to the school, and I did. You know, at that point, they give you a little part of the application that's like, why should we let you in? And I said, look, I've done all this without school so far, and I have a job that most people are going to your school to try to get, and I need to flip this back around. I need to see what you guys have to offer. But I'd been in school for about a year, and man, I was running out of money hard. And I needed to start figuring something out. And, I looked around for a lot of different stuff. And you talk about Fish. Well, Fish had been on hiatus. And they decided to get back together. And with that, they announced some shows. And at the time, Ticketmaster and Live Nation were two different companies. And Live Nation was trying to keep up with what Ticketmaster could do online for ticketing sales. And the show in Indianapolis went on sale, and we tried to buy tickets for it. And it was just like such a massive failure. And of course, Live Nation decided to launch their own ticketing system like 2 days before. Now, I didn't even realize any of that stuff at the time, but I didn't get any tickets to the show in Indianapolis. Well, the next day of the show, another show in Wisconsin went on sale. And I said, yeah, maybe I'll buy some tickets for that and I'll trade them or do something. I ended up getting like 16 tickets for that. And I was like, shit, now I got way too many. And I sold them on eBay and I made a couple $100 and the light bulb popped over my head. I was like, is this really this easy? I can just sit in front of my computer and buy tickets. Well, at that point, keep in mind, I'm running out of money. I really had nothing at this point. I had gone through a divorce, had gone through the housing bubble, hadn't worked and earned income in a year. And I had no clue what I was doing in this industry. But there was at the time, a new country pop sensation, a young girl named Taylor Swift, who was just breaking onto the scene. Now, having worked in and around the music industry for a while, I quickly found that I was very equipped to be a ticket broker because I was keeping up with the trends and whatever. So for a few months, sat there and we would buy tickets when they went on sale, and we're selling them on eBay. And then StubHub, who just got acquired for like $4 billion, was kind of new at the time and started selling some tickets there and doing some stuff. And I mean, that was the intro for the next 8 years of my life. And quite honestly, everything I do now, which is 100% unrelated to being a ticket broker. So we accidentally stumbled into that business. Now you ask what happened in the $1 million bedroom, all kinds of shit, man. A lot of learning, a whole lot. And I don't know how far you got into the book, but a lot of people read that and they'll send me a note and they'll say, hey man, thanks for writing this book. I'll say, cool. Did you learn anything? And said, well, what I really learned is that I'm not a failure. Cause meaning like it almost licenses you to be bad at a lot of stuff, but just like be bad at it once. And like, I don't know, we tried so many different things. That's where we hired our original employees in the Philippines.
Yeah, like I wanted to talk about that. And that's kind of what I mean by listening to echoes, following your gut, trying some things that you kind of stumbled upon and had this intuition might be interesting. Because that's kind of what happened with your ticket business. And then, I thought it would be interesting to talk about what ended up helping lay the foundation for what you built later, which is talking to your parents' housekeeper, I think.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So here we are starting a business selling tickets. Now, I want to back up. And Dad, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but this is just the truth. Before I wanted to get into the piano business, I called my dad and I said, I think I found something I can get into and make some money. And I told him I'm in the piano business. He said, how the hell are you going to make any money selling pianos? I did really well with it. I made quite a bit of money selling that. And that led to some really cool jobs. And then when we started to get into the ticket business, now remember, I was still in school. So now I was going to school to learn how to actually be a better entrepreneur. I didn't want to work for other people. I thought I might, but I've known since people are like, when did you become an entrepreneur? I'm like, I kind of always was, I guess. I mean, I remember being 5 years old. It's like, it's ingrained in you. It's like coded into your DNA. So the ticket thing had gone for a little bit. We started making some money, but remember, I didn't have any money. And, it's hard to start a business so I had a credit card with an $8,000 limit. That was like pretty much the extent of my startup capital and a computer. And, I ended up, you can, for all the details, read my book, $1 Million Bedroom. It's on Amazon, but, did you enjoy the way that I ended up financing the company?
It was interesting.
Well, my poker buddies, I got them to all throw their credit cards at me basically, and multiplied my buying power. And they wanted to keep the points. So it was,
double coincidence of once.
Yeah. But I mean, we ended up going from having no capital to having $400,000 worth of credit in about 6 months. And things really started cooking. Being a ticket broker is not as easy as just buying and selling tickets. Like wherever. It's actually really hard. 95% of events don't sell out. And then keep in mind, you have to pay these fees, like StubHub wants 10% or 15% or whatever. So you don't only have to be right about something selling for a premium. You got to be really right. or you just end up breaking even. So we learned a lot of stuff with that. But so I'm here in school, and now I'm starting to suck at school because I'm spending all my time on the business, and I'm going to have to make a decision. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I think I'm going to take a break from school. He said, what? I said, yeah, I think I'm going to give this ticket business we started a try. How the hell are you going to make any money selling tickets? And I kind of just knew that was like, there was an echo. I was like, I've heard this from you before. But we went charging into that. I put school on hold, and over the next 8 years, we sold $30 million worth of tickets. And considering that we knew nothing about the business, any of it at all, had no connections, had no resources, finding such a high level of success with that was unlikely. If I had to go back and talk to myself now, if I was pitching myself on the worthiness and the readiness of that business, I would have said, run. You have no chance of being successful. So that was, but there was a lot of determination and a lot of, being a good entrepreneur is about being able to try enough stuff and be stubborn enough not to quit, but not being so stubborn that you don't know when to quit. So
yeah, were there times that it seemed like it was time to quit?
Yeah, there's a part in the $N Million Bedroom about the coin toss. I think every business has a coin toss moment. I think a lot of things in life have a coin toss moment where you're like, all right, heads, we'll keep doing this. Tails, we'll just do something different. And we did that. We flipped the coin at that business because we had some struggles, and my wife, she wasn't my wife yet, but she'd been working at the business with us. And she said, are you really going to quit? And I said, probably not, but let's flip this coin anyway. But you get into that moment, and that's the thing is some things are worth fighting through the bullshit, and some things aren't. And determining what those are is difficult sometimes. I think the higher the upside, and there's this the path to revenue. Understanding your path to revenue as an entrepreneur is challenging. Yeah. So anyway, with that, I was still being in school. They're like globalization, outsourcing, but they don't tell you how to do it. They just tell you should. And so you're like, damn, what do I want to do? So I had this idea for building websites that generated themselves, which today isn't even high technology. 10 years ago, that was like impossible.
And again, this was based on what you would learn from researching SEO and how other ticket brokers were auto-generating websites, right?
Yeah, but they weren't really auto-generating them. They had websites that would lead to, like, there was plug-in technology and things. There's a company up in Connecticut called Ticket Network. You could build your own site, and it basically had, like, you could do a search bar and it would give you some gibberish URL, and it wasn't search engine friendly.
Okay.
There was one company that seemed to be generating SEO friendly page as well. Now, up to that point, we had done well with a blog and driving people to traffic, but I realized that if we could figure out how to generate pages in mass and do it in an SEO friendly way, we do well. So I hired a local programmer, and it went okay in the beginning. And then he got stuck. He couldn't make it. He couldn't, with this, we would want to have to generate like 90,000 web pages with the press of a button. And it would get to about the third page, and then it would just start making the same page for infinity. And he told me, I said, man, he was stuck for like 2 months. I was like, dude, you need to you need to shit or get off the pot. So I said, what do we need to make this successful? And he said, you need a PHP programmer. I said, cool, let's go hire one. He said, well, that's the problem. You're probably not going to find one around here. I said, well, why not? He said, well, everyone grew up doing everything else but that. So it became a really easy solution. I said, okay, well, we have to go figure out where people grew up doing this, because that's the case somewhere. And, now, so many people that are entrepreneurs say, I don't know how to do it. I don't have experience. I don't have access to the info. Yeah, you do. It's called Google or YouTube. Like, it's there. It might not be on 1.1 of the search results. You might have to dig, but the info is out there. We're in a golden age of information. There's nothing you can't figure out how to do if you're determined how to do it, and do it right there through google.com. Same with YouTube, right? So I had to figure out, I said, well, where did everyone grow up doing PHP? And I came back, it was Philippines or India. I don't know anybody in India, but my parents happened to have a house cleaning service that a Filipino family owns. And I'd known these folks for now like 20 years. Guy's name is Del Rivera. If you're in Kansas City, look him up. He's got a great cleaning service. But I called him up and I said, Del, I need to hire some computer programmers. And he goes, you know, I clean houses, right? I'm like, well, I didn't think you would probably be providing me with computer programmers, but you're from the Philippines. What do I need to do? Do I need to go to Manila? Do I need to do something? He goes, you need to go to Cebu. And I said, so what? Never heard of it. So Cebu City is the Philippines' second largest city. And Andy, nobody has ever heard of it. It is shocking. Like 99 out of 100 people. Have you ever heard of Cebu City before?
Not until I read your book.
Right.
No.
It's huge. It's got 3 million people in it. But he described Cebu as being like Silicon Valley. He's like, this is the tech hub. This is where you want to be. He said, Manila's there later if you want. Now, Manila's 4 times bigger than Cebu. But it's the obvious choice. Now, I'm not an obvious choice kind of guy. I like that secondary path. I like that long tail. Like, where's the least resistance for me to be able to get what I want? Right. So the obvious choice is not always the best, but I put an ad in the paper and another one in an online site. And I got like 75 replies in an hour. And there was one guy that stood out. His name was Rico. And during my interview with him, which started via email, he said, well, what's the problem? And I described it. And he said, send me back a little piece of the code. And I did. And he replied, he said, try this. And now I mentioned I don't write code. So it just looks like gibberish to me. You know, like when you look at code, you're like, what? How do you? I think computers are powered by magic on some days. And that's like the little incantation spell or something. But he sent it back to me and I sent that over to the other programmer. And like 2 hours later, I got an email back with the subject line in all caps. It worked. So this guy fixed our problem during his interview and I ended up hiring him. And with that, ended up building what we called the automatic page creator, the APC. It was a hit. It was a smash. We probably made about, I don't know, $1 million profit off of that over the next couple of years. So for those of you listening, there's the first part of something going well. But with that 30 minutes in or whatever, but yeah, the thing is that required a lot of extra effort. I stayed up late and we worked through, like, building software especially is all about failure. Like, you're going to fail until you don't. And you either like win or you die. It's that cut and dry, because in the end, there's no maybe. It works or it doesn't, and so we ended up, I expanded on that effort and some of the things we were doing. So now we had built these websites that were able to make these pages, and we needed to drive traffic. So I started hiring more people over there that were placing online classified ads just everywhere. At one point I got up to about 12 people, and then dropped that down to about 6 a few years later. And that went on. So that remained our core team in the Philippines for 4 or 5 years. I never did any kind of client services or anything like that. But 5 years ago, started building gigabook.com, which is another kind of accidental, interesting story. So Jill, who I mentioned earlier as working at the business, was going to become my wife. And we were going to get married in St. Thomas. And I had one job, and that was to drop the dogs off at the kennel. So we're leaving at 6 the next morning, and me being me, it's 5 o'clock. And I still haven't dropped the dogs off. I'm picking up the phone. I'm going, oh shit, I might be in trouble here. And no one's answering the phone at this place. So I throw 2 French bulldogs in the car, and this place is about 20 minutes away, and I'm driving.
Shout out French bulldogs.
Yeah. By the way, I had to give them away later for biting my children.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes, it's okay. They have better homes now.
Yeah. Don't really think of them as biters.
I know. We didn't. Who would have known?
All right.
Part of that was because we treated them like our children and then had children. And I think they were angry about that later.
Okay.
They were very angsty.
There's a lesson in there.
Yeah. They listened to a lot of punk rock in that middle part of their life that really made them lash out.
Right.
It wasn't like terrible biting, but it was enough. So So I'm driving to drop my dogs off and thinking like, oh man, I'm in deep shit if there isn't anybody. There's no one answering the phone. I'm like, why aren't you answering the phone? You should be open. I pull up, I get to the place, I see it's open, and I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God it's open. So I went in and no one in the store, but I hear a voice in the back, hey, I'm back here. And I walk to the back and this lady's got this giant dog, like covered in bubbles. She's like bathing a bull mastiff or something. Like, I don't even know what kind of dog it was, but it was clear why she wasn't answering the phone. So say, I'm dropping these dogs off. And I put them in, they had like a holding pen.
Shoved them in a crate.
They shoved them in and I like got the fuck out of there. I was like, all right, woo, dodged a bullet there. But the whole way back, I was like, man, why was that so hard? And like and I've always been offended by inefficiency in business. Like when it's just like, especially missed opportunities. I'm sitting there thinking like, why can't you do this online? Like, why wasn't I able to like make this appointment and do whatever?
Put the suds down.
Yeah, well, for real. But so my friend Christy was the owner of that business and she wasn't there, but I was thinking, man, how much business are you losing by not answering the phone?
Yeah.
Man, that's like the worst thing. Like you should just don't have a phone line at your business unless you're prepared to answer it. Because nothing says we're not paying attention more than no one answering the phone. But so I kept thinking, I was like, why can't I do that online? And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, we've already built so much to do this kind of stuff because we had built our own software to make our ticket business more efficient. Like, hey, your tickets are about to ship, or just different reminders and calendars and marketing stuff. And there was no one that did anything like what we did. So we had to build our own version of it. So this is the segue into one of the larger, I don't want to say failures, but money pits. So left the next morning on time, and much like every bride-to-be wants to deal with, I had a new great entrepreneur idea on the way to my wedding. So Jill, who is the most patient woman on the planet, probably, had to listen to me talk about that the whole time we were going. We got married. We made it to the actual altar, which is good because she probably had a bunch of reasons to bail after hearing about my new online idea or whatever. And so anyway, got married, came back. Now around that same time, and I talk about this in $1 Million Bedroom, we had, actually that was a prior that error had already occurred. So we had kind of pushed our limit for online posting and doing stuff. And a few months earlier, we got literally bitch slapped by Google, penalized hard. Like, they didn't like some of the stuff we were doing and the content we had put out. We went from talking about failure, went from making about $2,000 a day profit passive, like not even really doing much on it at that point, to nothing
right
in a week. That's how it was, like Enron stock. That's what the web traffic looked like. And Google had really just started penalizing people for different things. But, I realized that I needed to build something sustainable. That later became Gigabook, which you talk about. I don't know if it's necessarily a failure, but one of the big things whenever I talk to another entrepreneur is understanding your path to revenue. Like, how many dollars are you going to have to spend before you can generate one in return? And, some of these companies, like you're out in California, and some of those companies burn billions and might not even generate $1 in revenue. But that's different for every type of business. And that's why franchises are so attractive to some people. Because if you open a Subway, it's pretty predictable. You're going to spend X amount of money on the way to opening, and day one, people are going to come in because it's Subway and you're going to be generating revenue. But with Gigabook, we learned over the next couple of years, we spent $250,000 before we generated $1 in revenue.
Did that freak you out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. So it seems like, based on what you're sharing, what I read in the book, do you find risk to be exciting, or do you find it to be anxiety provoking like most people?
I think you're referring to the term, are you risk averse? And that comes with your personality style. So I'm like a highly driven, like almost like 99 out of 100 on the drive scale, which leads to less risk. Like, I'm not as scared about risk. It's not going to like eat me up inside. Like, now, some people it will, especially the type B personality, because the anxiety doesn't vent out very well. I would be lying if I said it didn't create anxiety. Now, on the flip side of that, I still had this ticket business on the other side that was just generating huge amounts of money.
But even during the creation of the ticket business as it grew and you had to take on and learn all of these different expertise, or you had to find people to do things that you didn't know how to do, did that freak you out at all? Or were you just like, yeah, I'm going to figure it out?
That part. Maybe for the first couple of years of the ticket company, the thing that gave me more anxiety than the risk. Now, by the way, the ticket business was way more stressful than Gigabook or building software, because the ticket business is like, you're going to spend like tens of thousands of dollars in a day hoping that something's as popular as you want it to be. And every ticket that you buy it's like milk. It has an expiration date on it. And if you don't sell it by that time, you can get kicked real hard and real fast in that business. Like, you can go from being on top of the world to being in the gutter in like a couple days. It's just the nature of the business. Now, with that, there's wild swings. I learned a lot about what I call dynamically priced markets. That's where the price of anything can change from any minute. And that's the way that there was a lot of things in that business that were stressful. The thing that was stressful about it was, I always tell people this, the internet doesn't close. So people are buying things all day, every day. And with the ticket business, the hard part was, as we got bigger, more transactions, more people, more shit to deal with. And it's 24 hours a day. And that part wore on us. With the other stuff, like with Gigabook, and what leads into what I'll probably say was the biggest fail of my own professional career, was at the beginning of 2015, we thought it was market ready. I hired a couple people to come in and work basically as business development people. We thought we were ready to go, and we launched it. And about 2 months into that, realized that we were way, way, way early. We weren't ready for a lot of different reasons. And you talk about that kind of oh shit moment, where you're like, oh wow. So, you got a couple of choices at that point. You can spit it out, or you can just kind of deal with it, chew it up, and choke it on down. And, I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's true. Like, that's your coin toss moment. But, in poker, they refer to pot committed. You've bet so much on this hand to fold right before everyone shows their cards it means you're giving up. Now, sometimes giving up, I look back at that a lot. So I didn't give up. I had to scale the business down and its needs and everything else. The problem I had at that point was the way that we had built the site wasn't leading to our ability to change it, update it, or maintain it very well. And without getting too technical there,
it's hard coded.
It was basically hard. It was built in procedural coding, which was, people refer to spaghetti code. That's basically what happened when you go to try to fix one thing and you break 5 others. So at that point, I had to make a tough decision. I then spent another $150,000 to rebuild it into a platform, more of into MVC framework, model view control, object-oriented programming, just whatever. But, one of the guys that had helped me build it, do you remember a guy named John Berman?
I don't. Should I remember?
Maybe.
John?
I don't know.
Okay.
We went to different schools, but he was our age. But John had been working part-time with me on it. He said, hey, man, you keep talking about wanting to build a platform, but I need to tell you that's really not what you're doing here. So we had to back up and punt. Now, when I say we actually generated money after $250,000, yeah, that was like we were getting about $100 a month. So it wasn't significant. So I had to decide, am I going to pay? I ended up having to spend another $150,000 on this, move it forward, and it started making some progress. But, if I had quit at that point, everything that we do in the Philippines now wouldn't be occurring. It's so weird as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you find you don't know. Like, there was times when I could have quit what we were doing in Cebu. a number of times up to this point, and I didn't. And I don't know why. It was just weird. It's like I just never felt like that was the right time to quit.
How did you have that blind spot around how the site was being built, or what did you need to learn that changed that?
Well, I learned pretty quickly that our ability to service it and improve it was terrible.
But on the front end, when you were developing it, did you not have the technical expertise or understanding of how it was being built at that time?
Not to build a software as a service platform.
Right.
Building little innovations for your own business, things that you use internally, are way easier because it's easy to know what your exact needs are and build something for that. But building software that appeals to a large, broad audience is difficult because you don't know. You're kind of guessing, and so
not being an engineer and working with technical people who are building software as a service platform, sites, features, whatever. Did you have to change how you approach that going forward from that experience?
I continued to learn. It's funny. I have these simplistic rules that I've developed. Rule 1 is this annoying? and it's like I was just at our office in Cebu and I try to teach that to everyone there. Rule 1, because you have your experience of using anything. And if it's annoying, you will not continue to use it. You're not going to be happy with it. So those are some of the things like, is this annoying? And that could mean do you have to go through 5 clicks to get to one thing that you should have right in front of you? As far as building things that are scalable and repeatable, man, that's just hard. I mean, people with a lifetime of technical experience manage to get that wrong a lot. In the end, one of the things that we should have done is let it out a hell of a lot sooner. I should have done a lot more validation and put it out there before I hired people to come kind of run the business. I knew the product was necessary. So what does Gigabook do? Gigabook's a customizable booking platform for any type of business to take online appointments. Now, 5 years later, there's all kinds of stuff that does that. But I mean, it's definitely validated. But where we found our niche was being fully customizable, which, by the way, is 10 times harder than just doing one specific thing. So, I mean, really, in the end, I think the thing that I really learned was if I wasn't going to give my full attention to something, then I shouldn't expect that it be remarkably successful. So that was the I've always compared myself to the old Ed Sullivan show clips where the guy's spinning plates on poles.
I've seen it.
Yeah, that's me. So one starts to wobble, I got to run over and spin it and run back. But I mean, the thing that really created the most anxiety for me in the first few years of all this was my own employees. And it was about 3 years in when I finally came to the realization that no one was going to care about all of it as much as I did. I accepted that and I moved on. And that's a weird thing. It's but it makes so much sense. Why would they care about it? You can give people a vested interest in the success, and that usually will improve their level of caring. But really, in the end, no one's going to be as passionate about it. And I also learned that, I made some bad hiring decisions. I think the thing in the end that I've really realized is that finding people that care, you can't train that. You just can't. You can't make people care. And if you find people that care, figure out how to make it work. Because that is a sticky glue-like thing in your business you should want. Because that's where it starts. If people don't care, you mentioned, why weren't you a good student? I didn't care. I just didn't care. It wasn't that important to me. And by the way, I had a sister who was a brilliant student, top of the valedictorian. So we're on opposite ends of the spectrum there. It wasn't that I was, trust me, my family wanted me to care, but I didn't. So, but when you do care about something, or you find people that care about something, your ability to stick other things onto that is so much easier, so much more efficient.
Did you find a way to screen for that? Or is it your intuition or what? Man,
hiring is so hard. No, I'd love to tell you, yeah, we figured it out. Well, we figured it out. Yes and no. You never know what kind of a job someone's going to do until they show up and do it. I mean, it's just that simple. I've had people that I've hired that I thought were going to just change the face of everything we did. And literally they were the worst employees we've ever had. And it wasn't for reasons related to what the skills they needed to do the job were. They had something else calling them, had some other chaos or bullshit in their life that they couldn't set off to the side. You know, like it's like text messaging. Shouldn't be sending 200 text messages while you're at work. Yeah. We've let people go for that. Like just cause, but the thing is they get wrapped up in some other bullshit. And that's the thing is your phone is the enemy of your success on so many days. You got to quiet that noise, but yeah. And that's, you know, sitting down with people, like you wouldn't think you'd have to sit down with an adult and be like, hey, every time I see you, which is a lot, you're staring at your phone. And I'm positive that nothing I'm paying you to do is going on your phone. So you can either leave that shit out in the car or decide whether or not you want to work here. Right? And believe it or not, these same people, they find a way. You're like, shit, dude, like, yeah, and you can't train that out of people. By the way, I've never had to give a warning like that to someone that didn't later get fired for it. And it's happened a couple times. I've had hundreds of employees at this time. I think we should talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Because I know we've been talking about a lot of this up until now. And, you know, full scale, everything we talked about, and this was definitely like an ADD version of it. But over the last 10 years, I finally, a year and a half ago, realized that the reason we were doing all of this was to create the business we started now, which is Full Scale, which if you're still listening, thank you. But yeah, we've grown 180 employees in 18 months. That's where the company's at right now. And we're getting ready to, I don't like to timestamp recordings like this, but coming into 2020, at the end of 2020, we expect to have around 400 employees, maybe a lot more. I don't know. The crystal ball's fucked up right now. I'm just trying to keep that thing on its like little holder because everything's moving so quickly right now that it's a challenge. But yeah, so really the main reason we ended up hanging on to everything in the Philippines was we talk about another accidental business. Matt Watson became my business partner in Gigabook. And it wasn't because he was interested in Gigabook. He owns another company called Stackify. And he was having the same problem a lot of people are having with programmers in North America. And that's that there aren't enough of them. And they often get coaxed away by people with big wallets that are in your side of the country. And here in Kansas City, that's a bit of an issue. And
it's a bit of an issue everywhere.
Right.
It's insane. Yeah.
Now, at the time, we didn't realize that, but Matt wanted to build a team. Now, when I first met Matt, he was very opposed to using remote developers, meaning developers that weren't here in the office.
How did you know that Matt would be a good partner? Because it's selecting a business partner, partnering up with someone on these endeavors.
It's hard,
right?
Yeah. Well, so Matt, I interviewed him for $1 Million Bedroom. Now, Matt's really well known in Kansas City. He sold his first software company for $150 million. So, done that. With the thing I learned I've written 3 books now, and there's been 20 people that were interviewed in them. And much like being on a podcast with someone, there's a weird. I don't know. Does this happen on your podcast? You sometimes develop a friendship or a different kind of relationship with the people that you have on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just interesting, and it's,
well, I mean, it's like life. Some people you meet and like you really click and you find that you have some kind of commonality. Maybe you didn't know before you had a more in-depth interview.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I interviewed Matt for $1 Million Bedroom, and with that, we started becoming friends. But the thing I've realized is that, and especially for someone like Matt, and I can't expect anyone that hasn't been in that boat to have any empathy, but when you have an exit like that, it kind of just puts this weird little bullseye on you. Like, it's hard to tell when people are being genuine or when they just want something from you. And when people think you have a lot of money, then more and more of the more people just surface and they want something from you. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's not. But I think Matt and I got along really well in the beginning because neither one of us were wanting anything from the other person. And then also we had both been successful to a degree that was at least interesting. And it's hard to find other people to relate to. We have kids that are the same age. We just kind of got to be friends. But one of the things was, so, the office we're in right now, having this conversation while it's now full, at the time was not 2 years ago. And I owned an office building and I was about the only person in it at that point. By the way, I exited my ticket business at the end of 2016. I wasn't happy. I didn't like doing it anymore and I wanted to do something else. So I left. Over that next 9 months is when my books came out. I decided I was going to completely reinvent myself. This was the wildest, riskiest thing I've ever done in my life. Nothing. And it wasn't an entrepreneurial venture. It was deciding that I wanted to do something different.
Were you excited to do it?
Yes. And scared shitless at the same time because at that.
What does that look like for you? Being scared shitless.
So, and I've had this discussion on my own podcast, by the way. It's called Startup Hustle if you want to check it out. But being scared shitless is not, I have no fear about being broke long term. I'm good at making money. To me, I actually see it as like a superpower. I've honed it. I'm great at it. It's very valuable to other people. But that said, the fear, I never wanted to be the guy that had $1 million, like past tense. Like there's now not necessarily afraid of that, but it's a road to climb back. Every venture I've had as an entrepreneur has had a brush with death, basically flying too close to the sun. At this point, I just try to fly as fast as I can and go right through the center of the sun and hope that I come out the other side
and enter the fifth dimension
or something, man. But it's weird because, if you talk about enter the fifth dimension or whatever,
yeah.
But there is a weird, like when I'm on to something now, I've learned so I'm 44, but I've learned these like weird little triggers. It's like the great chess masters of the world will tell you that they're thinking 5 and 6 moves ahead. And when they're pinned in a corner, they're thinking 2 moves ahead or 1 or something like that. But I think as an entrepreneur, when you can start to see, like we talked about fish, right? Well, they actually have a song I see the path ahead of me and I feel no curiosity. Because you're free and you're just like it's like this weird manifest destiny, and it's a strange feeling, and you have to trust it because they say trust your gut. And as I've gotten older, I've learned to do that a lot more. The trust your gut statement goes, I knew I shouldn't have done that, but you did it anyway. Right. So kind of allowing myself to be free and see what happens and figure a lot of things out along the way. I often tell people sometimes you have to jump and then build wings. Just need to make sure you have the stuff to build the wings before you leave the cliff.
A wing building kit.
Yeah. Or something.
Yeah.
Or something, nothing will make you build those wings faster than the impending doom of hitting the canyon floor. That might be your intro.
Okay, I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be. I think we've got a lot of other great material, but you bring up Fish. I'm not a fan of Fish's music. My younger brother is a big Fish fan. I know many other Fish fans, but what I do find to be really interesting about Fish is, you talked about seeing multiple moves ahead, and from the beginning, Fish has done an insane job of that. Like they're a totally vertically integrated business.
Yeah.
They kind of invented like the whole festival culture,
somewhat. Some of that's been handed down.
Woodstock was going on, but yeah, a lot of things that they were doing were far ahead of their times, like both on the ticketing side, on the event side, in terms of how they run their business. It's kind of an interesting.
I moved on from Fish and became
more of a Widespread Panic fan.
No, Humphreys McGee, man. That's who I wrote my last book with. Was one of the members of the band, and that the jam band torch gets passed from generation to generation, and it's kind of their turn now.
Yeah,
and they're great marketers. But the thing I really like about that kind of music is about the jam type is that it's a constant sense of adaptation and reaction. And you have a very loose plan. And that's the way music can be. You know, hey, we're going to play notes in this key and we'll figure the rest out. Now, here's the thing is sometimes that crashes and burns in a fucking hurry. If now in the last book that I wrote, which is actually the Realist Guide to a Successful Music Career, and I wrote it with him, but the keyboardist from Humphreys McGee. Now, Vic Wooten, who's a very well-known bass player, says the wrong note's only the wrong note until you get back to playing the right one. So sometimes you have these moments and you're like, oh, and it just sounds like shit, but you keep moving forward until it all comes back together. You don't just stop. So for me, that's always been an interesting thing. And then one of the things that kind of quells my ADD is the like 25-minute song without any words in it.
Right.
I'm cool with that.
Right.
But yeah, so, you know, back to Watson becoming part of our business, and listening to the echoes, and this honestly, like, I feel like this is the big crescendo for the storyline, but we became business partners. Now, and much like me being who I am, I made him buy half of my company. I made him buy half a gigabook to get access to the domain knowledge, basically, that I created with hiring offshore people. Now, you can't open a business in the Philippines without having Filipino business partners.
Right.
Which is a problem because you want to trust your business partners or whatever. So we ended up starting a business over there. Our plan was to build a team for Stackify, his other company. We were going to mark up the services a little bit, and it would completely eliminate Gigabook's burn rate, which was a very magical combo.
Right.
Because it didn't require a whole lot of capital for us to get where we want. Well, it wasn't even a month into it when we had other people here in Kansas City that we knew saying, what do we need to get in on this? I want to hire people. I want to get some people. We can't fill the seats that we need. I can't afford this. I can't afford that. So listening for echoes, you know, we had talked about doing client services in our business plan. It was like in year 2. And I heard enough people ask that we said, okay, we should try this. So it was April. It was April of that would have been 2018 that we decided to bring on a beta client. We brought on client 2 in May. And then this is kind of funny. And then in June, so this would have been June of 2018, I told Matt, I said, Matt, I need to take you out to lunch. We need to talk about some stuff. He was like, well, is everything all right? I said, yeah, we'll talk at lunch. So we sat down at lunch. I said, man, I don't think I should spend any more time on Gigabook. He goes, but I just bought half the company.
Where were you having lunch?
At Charleston's, right across the street. Here. But the joke with that was I said, I showed him, at this point, showed him the math. And I said, look, there's a huge need for providing services here. We have the understanding, the knowledge, the street cred, all of it to build a business that can become very profitable and very interesting right away. That was in the beginning of June of 2018. It was at the end of June of 2018 that Full Scale actually became a business, which was the tech services business, which was very similar to stuff we'd done in the past, but at the same time different. You know, and then it really caught fire. I mean, we're sitting at 180 employees. We have about 40 different clients we work with, and we took everything about offshoring and the remote model and just destroyed it. We just broke it, and we picked up the pieces that were worth retaining and started building, you know, like our own Lego castle, basically. And some of those things were, people have typically looked at a lot of remote development and offshore operations, and you know, they don't treat people well. So we said, you know what, we're going to be world class. We went in with a Silicon Valley attitude. So we're going to have the best office, the best equipment, the best benefits, and we're going to get the best people. And it took us a little bit to figure out how to do that. Now you talk about hiring. We're very exact with our hiring now. Like precise, because it's easy to spot someone. We created our own assessments, coding tests, different criteria, and just kind of looked at what worked and what we needed. I mean, some of it's too is like what level of English language skills exist. Because you can be the best programmer in the world, but if you don't speak English, you're not going to do well with an English speaking client. Because if you can't communicate what you're trying to do to someone, you lose your efficiency big time. So yeah, with that, here we are 18 months later, 180 employees. It's been so fun. It's been stressful.
How much time do you spend in the Philippines?
I was just there for 12 days. Not a lot. Matt goes there some too. So Stackify has 20 people that work at our office there. They're one of our clients, but we have a couple other clients that are similar to that. It was really about hiring the right people there. I found the right kind of leaders there. We've had more turnover in management than anything else, and that's because if they're not going to go with with the new mandate, this can't be exactly how it's been because there's a lot of imperfections. It's interesting dealing with different cultures, and like the expectation there. And getting people to the one thing we learned right away was that we didn't bring any value putting ourselves in between the communications between clients and their teams. So basically, we don't do projects, meaning like you don't call me up and say, hey, I've got $100,000. I want to build an app. Can you give me a bid? Nope. Never done that. Never will. Instead, say, hey, here's a number of people that will work for you, only for you. And I coined the term guided development. That's the product we sell. So our clients guide their own development. It's our job to have an acronym I called RARE, R-A-R-E, where we specialize in recruiting, assessing, retaining, and employing. So with us, you get that kind of business in a box. And we're really good at assessing who's good and who isn't. And that comes between a mix of my experience and then also Matt. So yeah, business is growing. It's, honestly, we expect to have around 2,000 employees 3 years from now.
Nice.
Which is crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. We're on the path to that, but that requires I don't think I could have 10 years ago, this would have already fallen apart and burnt into a crisp. Like we would be done. It took a lot of balls. We've put in a couple $1 million of our own money to this point, accepting that most of it was going to go negative for a little bit. And it's really difficult to try to build something like that. It's like that field of dreams mentality. Just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come. So, but with that, we're really proud of what we built over there. Made a big difference in a lot of people's lives. So.
And then how does, we're here in the Startup Hustle podcast recording studio. How does that fit into the mix for you?
Well, Full Scale acts as a parent company. It owns Gigabook now. It owns the Startup Hustle podcast.
Right.
Startup Hustle's been interesting too, because people are like, well, why did you start your podcast? We started it because we wanted to complain. We wanted to complain about being entrepreneurs, like all the weird shit. That we have a fictional club that will sometimes, you can be a member if you want. We call it Tears and Beers. It's a safe zone. If you just want to show up and cry or get drunk and cry, we won't judge. Because being an entrepreneur and a founder of a business is hard. It's like the ups and downs are excruciating. I'm sure you've seen people make memes like a graph. It's like an entrepreneur starts his day, we're going to take over the world. We're going to be number one. And then by the time 1 p.m., holy shit, this is going to fail. What are we going to do? And that's a reality of it. But Startup Hustle has been such an integral part. We've had listeners in 190 countries, get a couple thousand downloads a day. Whoever those people are, thank you. But with that, much like we're having a conversation today, that's the format. We don't do interviews. Some people like that. Some people don't.
Right.
Some people are like, I don't know. I'm sure you get comments occasionally. Some people like structure and some people don't. I'm like, if you don't fucking like it, there's 400,000 other podcasts. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't really understand people who hate on specific podcasts. It's just like TV.
It's free.
Change the channel.
Yeah. It's free. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And do
you have a money back guarantee on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you enjoyed about it the most?
Talking to people that are awesome. It's such a license to get in front of people that you might not normally get to spend an hour with. Like Sandy Kemper is a good example. The founder of C2FO, soon to be Kansas City's next, $1 billion startup. Guy doesn't have to take time to come talk to me. But he does. He takes it seriously. Like, he actually basically writes the set list. And just like, I don't know. I mean, we published, does this come out once a week, once a month? How often?
Life kind of dictates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sporadically.
Yeah, usually 2 to 4 times a month.
So ours was like that. And it was at the beginning of 2019. I said, look, we need to be consistent about this or not. And with that, we had to create an assembly line. And I got 180 people that work for me. You don't. I have a whole creative department. You don't. But with that, it should be easier for us to do what we do. And, our show comes out 4 days a week, which is aggressive. But people ask all the time, they're like, so we use Gigabook to schedule it and just different stuff and manage to, create an assembly line type flow that, all the way down to the thumbnails and the publication and all of that. It took a lot of effort and a lot of error. And then we finally got it right. And with that, I mean, it's something I want to keep doing. I enjoy it. It's almost like recess. I don't see it as work. I mean, do you?
No, I love it.
Yeah. It's just like sit down and talk about something interesting. Everyone's always got a different story.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's about their business and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I think recess is over, man. So if people want to find out more about you, more about Startup Hustle, more about Full Scale, Gigabook, where do they go?
Well, Full Scale, you can find us at fullscale.io. Pretty easy there. Startup Hustle, we're on about anywhere that you want to find a podcast. If you just search Startup Hustle, I mean, I would hope that you would find it. And if you don't, tell Andy and he'll tell me. But Gigabooks, gigabook.com. If you want to read my books, I've written 3 of them. One of them is called Balance Me. It's my take on finding balance in your personal, professional, and physical life. I'm going to warn you up front on that one. It's a realist point of view. So I say right away, I say, if you're not willing to admit that you're your biggest problem, just put the book back. So $1 Million Bedroom, which by the way is long overdue for like the second abridged version or whatever it is, like, because it stops right around when Gigabook was about to see if it was going to grow its wings, but kind of letting that bake in the oven. And then recently, more of a pet project, wrote The Realist Guide to a Successful Music Career. And that's wildly popular right now, which is fun. Yeah. Don't write a book if you think you're going to make money doing it. Like, write a book hoping that it's good. And if it is, maybe you'll make money doing it.
If you have questions, comments, feedback, or want to suggest a guest, please reach out to @HardwayPod on social or email me at choosethehardway@gmail.com. Please take a moment to hit 5 stars in Spotify or iTunes and leave a 1-word review. That helps more people connect with the powerful stories my guests share, and I really appreciate the support. You are what you overcome. Choose the hard way.